trying something new. This is the Bennett Brothers podcast for the movie Fantastic Beasts. Where are they? I'm Jerry Bennett.
And I'm Joel Bennett. Thank you for joining us. For those of you joining us for the first time, we are a podcast normally dedicated to everything Marvel Cinematic Universe, but we are talking about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. We have ventured out into other movies before, Star Wars and some of the DC movies, but this is the first time we're tackling the Harry Potter universe, and I figured this was a good opportunity for us because I like to think we have a pretty good knowledge of the Harry Potter world and everything that J.K. Rowling has created. And
I'm doing this under protest.
No, he's not. He never protested this. He wanted to do it.
I normally get to wear a cape. There's no capes in here. There's robes.
Now it's a bib. He just turned it around and made a bib for himself. But we'd also like to mention one other thing. We have a special guest podcaster with us today, a fellow Harry Potter nerd, the one and the only Kelsey Rosenorn, my girlfriend, for all those who don't know out there. She will be joining us. Kelsey, say hi.
Hello.
So Kelsey is a Hufflepuff, so she's very excited about this movie and everything that it
Easter
contains.
egg fact, Newt is Hufflepuff.
Yep.
Yes.
Scarf at the end.
I did. She's jumping in already with information. This is weird, Joel. We don't have to wear pants when we do these podcasts, but now there's a lady here.
And you're still not wearing pants.
I said it was really weird. I said it was weird.
Let's jump right into it, and we'll do like we do with our TV shows and our other movies, our first impressions. Now, this is going to be this is different than our normal reviews because normally we go into great detail. We break the TV shows down and give you all the Easter eggs and inside facts. This one, obviously, we've only seen it once, just recently, and we're kind of giving you our first impressions and some sort of the facts that we came up with through it, questions that we had, all sorts of stuff. I believe Derek has a first impression. We'll start with his before we'll get to ours.
Oh, yeah, actually because we had posted that we were going to be doing this, already up on our Facebook page, Bennett Brothers on Facebook, and one of our listeners, Derek Pender, had a great comment that he said, and this will lead into our opinions. He says, "My girlfriend and I nearly walked out. We were so bored. The main actor was nearly unbearable with his mopiness. The opening scene didn't make any sense. How long was Johnny Depp in Colin Farrell's body? How did the lead know to reveal Colin as Depp? The big bad villain was killed in 2 seconds. It rained memory-wiping tears across the entire city. The story was extremely lacking, in my opinion, and we love Harry Potter." Thank you, Derek, for your feedback.
Thank you, Derek.
How do you feel about what Derek said? Where's your impressions of this movie? Let's not go into the individual points yet, but how do you feel about the movie?
Well, Kelsey, we'll start with Kelsey.
I loved it, personally. Okay. I enjoyed it.
Hey, by the way, you're looking hesitant like we're going to come in and it's like, if you love the movie, and I've always said this, if you love the movie, that's awesome. You're wrong, but that's awesome. No, I'm kidding.
We just knocked the first, 2 movies. They're not that great of, they don't hold up. The special effects do not hold up in those movies. When he's fighting the troll, it's Gummy Troll with Gummy Harry Potter on it.
Yeah, they got John
Cleese. Back in 2001, wasn't it?
When Lord of the Rings was out, though.
Oh.
And Lord of the Rings is outstanding. So
you loved the movie, Joel.
I also absolutely love the movie, but I'm gonna break it down a little bit more than just love the movie, hate the movie, because there were things that really sold me on the side of loving the movie. Things like the production design. The costumes in this movie, I want to wear those costumes. I wish I lived in that world where they wore those costumes. Unlike that, I don't mind. I love the costumes in the Harry Potter world and all that, but they're very eccentric. This is very stylized for the time period, and I loved it. Colin Farrell's costume was just the coolest looking thing. I want to wear it. I think it looked great. And this is coming from me, who I hate Colin Farrell. I hate Colin Farrell.
He does.
He hates him. He has ruined so many movies. I think I like him in maybe 2 different things. I liked him in Horrible Bosses, and I think he was okay in Daredevil.
Daredevil, I was waiting for that.
But other than that, Saving Mr. Banks, there's been numerous movies where I've seen him and I just can't stand him because he's always playing
I thought he was good
Colin
in Fright
Farrell.
Night as the vampire.
I didn't see Fright Night
against David Tennant.
But that being said, maybe he is good in that. He doesn't do it for me. He always plays Colin Farrell. But in this movie, okay, by the way, we're going to be spoiling the heck out of this movie. So if you haven't seen it yet, we're going to be spoiling it.
I think you said it at the front, but good to reiterate.
But overall, I love the movie. I thought it was great. Love to watch it again. We saw it in 3D. I know you saw it in 2D, I believe. That was kind of under your recommendation, although time period wise, there was only movies that were around for that. Some of the 3D was good. Doesn't need to be in 3D. Doesn't. It's not like Doctor Strange, where Doctor Strange was like, yeah, 3D was immersive.
There were a couple times where some monsters popped out of the screen, but it
Well, that's what
happened
I would
like
think.
twice.
Where they're flying, their creatures are flying towards the screen. I'm guessing that was pretty cool.
Yeah, a couple times I actually made me blink when it comes right at the screen. I'm, oh, hey, there it is. But yeah, I love this movie. I thought it was a great extension of the Harry Potter world. I think you're absolutely right. It's aged for an older audience. This isn't a bunch of kids having a good time. This is actually, this is real stuff going on in this movie. I shouldn't say Harry Potter is a bunch of kids having a good time, but the first couple movies were. They're.
It's a child's book. It's a children's book.
Yes, and this is definitely not a children's book. So I will ask Jerry what his opinion is on
Oh,
this.
thank you. That was nice. I was waiting for that. I liked it, and I will say that I enjoyed it when I was there. I had issues that I've had. I saw it one day earlier than Joel and Kelsey, so I've had time to sit on it a little bit longer. And I think Derek brings up some really good points, and we can talk about those individually. I don't think it's a perfect movie. I do want to see it again at some point. And I don't know. It's weird. I also think that, as we've been told, this is the first of 5. It was first supposed to be a trilogy, and now they've already moved it to 5 books or 5 movies. I think this is kind of the This might not be the greatest analogy or whatever, but
I know where you're going, and
it's
it's
the
not.
Phantom
Phantom
Menace. In the fact that Phantom Menace was Lucas's one opportunity to have a fun kids movie before he went really dark with the other 2 films. And I believe this was the fun movie, and they're going to get progressively darker because we're going to be leaving these characters to a secondary role, and we're going to be telling the story of Grindelwald. They're going to be telling his story and his dark path and young Dumbledore, and we can get into that. But I believe that this is going to be and I felt it watching it. When he's in this very cool case, you're in this world, and it's like, oh, look how cool this is, and it's setting up a world, and I feel like they're going to be, this was the fun time because we're going to go dark, 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 dark. I'm okay with that, but that's what I felt going into that. I was like, I think this is lighter. And maybe, because, I tend to go, a little, enjoy films that have a little darker edge, like Empire Strikes Back versus Return of the Jedi. Maybe that's a good thing. But I did enjoy this movie a lot, but I have issues with stuff.
I thought they did a really good job making you care for characters you've just met.
You really cared about Newt a lot?
I did. And here's the first disagreement I'm going to have with Derek on there. And I totally understand he comes off as mopey. He actually comes off as a little autistic, in my opinion. Yeah. But I don't think there's more behind the eyes in what's going on, and that we've learned so far. I think we're going to get even more out of the character. And I like that. Versus,
I don't think we could get less.
Versus Harry Potter. Now, if you take Harry Potter, he's thrust into a situation he doesn't know anything about, and you're kind of experiencing it with him. This is different. We're not following someone who doesn't know the world. We have that character in this movie, but it's not Newt. Newt knows more about the world than anybody.
I do love having adults not having to learn spells. These guys are all full-blooded, ready to go, and that was cool.
And I like that about there's a history to Newt we're going to find out. Yeah, this isn't a book, and you can get a lot more in depth with a book. This was a screenplay that she wrote, so you have to get to know these characters really quickly. But we're expanding.
We're clearly also going to be revealing his backstory over the next few films. So yes, there's a mystery to him. But I agree, his portrayal, Eddie Redmayne, he's an interesting actor. I've seen him in everything from Jupiter Ascending to,
which I thought was pretty weak from him, but
he comes across, he internalizes.
You liked him in that. I
didn't say I liked him. I liked that movie. He was actually probably the part I didn't like the most about that movie. I had trouble responding to his character. Now, if somebody was questioning the guys who wrote this, or the screenplay, or whoever worked with it, or even the producers, and they were talking about the question they brought up to them was, wow, that was a bold choice. We're really excited that you guys decided to make the secondary 2 characters. Kelsey, what are their names? Frank?
No, Frank was the bird.
Yeah, Frank was the bird thing.
But the 2, the nomad and the sister, and the person asking the question was like, oh, so lovely that you made that the focus of the storyline of love versus the main characters. And it caught the producers a little off guard. Like, we wouldn't actually say that. We think there is a love and romance and an attraction to them, and I read that before I saw the movie, but I didn't. Maybe I didn't. I can't remember. But it brought up the point. Was like, I picked up on that too. I felt like the other 2 characters were so strong that I was like, oh, you're really rooting for them. I had no connection to the 2 leads, and the Tina, I think the character.
So there was Kowalski.
Yeah, but I didn't care for her. She annoyed the piss out of me. She was just so annoying because I don't know her backstory. Even when they finally started revealing it at the end, I'm like, okay, that helps. But she was annoying me. Now I know the history.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I agree with you. I think she was the weakest of the characters.
I mean, the history of these characters are already mapped out. He's still alive at the end of the last Harry Potter movie. We also do know what happens to her sister. I don't want to say that, but that's been spoiled in the history of these books. I couldn't really get attached. I mean, he was cool when he was doing stuff, but I couldn't get attached to the characters as much as I did to the other ones.
Yeah.
Well, going back to Eddie Redmayne, I think he's a phenomenal actor. And The Theory of Everything, where he won the best.
No, I get it.
Well, he was amazing in that movie. I liked him in Les Mis. He has a decent singing voice as well. So everyone who knows me, like I can appreciate that as well.
That's because you played him.
No, I didn't play him.
Not him.
That's
No, I
Marius.
meant when you played Stephen Hawkins.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was.
That's what I was saying.
Wow. Wow. I can understand the characters, but then again, I want to know more about these characters. I want to follow these characters' stories. I think Newt is going to have a bigger part to play in these next that we didn't even think about.
I think he's going to have a smaller part to play in these movies next coming up. I think this was his big story. And they've already said that that's the fact that they're going to step back and his character and Tina are going to take a role more like Queenie and Kowalski. Well, he's got a first name. They say his name.
Jacob.
They're going to play more roles like that in the next films because they're going to be bringing in a young Dumbledore.
But he's still going to tie in. I think that we're still going to be folling his storyline.
I do, but it's not going to be he's not going to be the focus. The focus is going to be Captain Jack Sparrow.
You say that now, but we don't. That's.
Okay.
That's
why I'm guessing.
We'll see. So I want to just go through. I did write some notes this time, some thoughts, some questions that I had that I wanted to bring up for this. So I'll just kind of get right into them. How do you think they're going to film a young Dumbledore? Because obviously we've seen Richard Harris, who's.
Do you think they will?
Yeah, he's young. Dumbledore's going to be in these next.
Well, we've already seen a younger version of him played in the flashback with Tom Riddle in the 6th book.
But that was just him with shorter hair, wasn't it?
And brown hair. He doesn't have gray hair.
I'm just saying, Richard Harris doesn't make him because they've got what's the other Dumbledore, the main one who took over for Richard Harris. Because that wasn't Richard Harris who played
that's what I meant.
So I'm saying you've already had a younger version. They'll just recast him. I mean, we've already seen Grindelwald in the other movies played by Jamie.
Man, yes.
What's his name?
We're great with this right now, aren't we?
Well, you know what?
Sure.
He played him in Grindelwald in the other one, and we've actually seen Grindelwald die in the other movie as an old man. So I think they'll just cast, which they're going to have to cast somebody who's going to be able to span 20 years. Because we know that out of these 5 books that they're making, 5 movies, the 5th one's going to finish in 1945, which is when they have their big fight and he defeats Grindelwald. I mean, also this movie takes place in the year that Tom Riddle is born.
1924, I want to say.
That's when Tom Riddle is born. I'm glad they didn't tie. I'm glad they've already know Tom Riddle's origin because if Hollywood was doing this now, they would can't Vader make C-3PO?
No,
as opposed to can't Tom Riddle be the son of Grindelwald? Because that's what Hollywood would want to do. That would simplify it for the audience.
That's what George Lucas would want to do.
But yeah, exactly. It's that whole thought process.
Okay, well, I'm interested in seeing where they go with that because when we have Dumbledore in the Harry Potter movies, he's 160 years old, I think. He's way up there, and so when we see him with
Grindelwald was born in 18 something or other.
So when we see young Dumbledore. He's not young. I mean, he's in his 60s or something like that when he's talking with young Voldemort. So I'm just wondering, are they going to? They're going to. I guess they're going to recast it, but are they going to make it? They're going to de-age the actor, or are they going to?
No. Otherwise, why wouldn't they just had the other guy playing Grindelwald because he was already played it? And he would have been older. The flashback from the Deathly Hallows.
We've never seen Grindelwald in a flashback.
We saw him. When he was young.
When he was super young, the little blonde boy.
Yes.
Was in his 20s. That actor was the same actor who was in Sweeney Todd, who was the young. But he's actually probably in his 30s now, or if anything, in his late 20s. So he could have easily played this role. And even though I can't think of his name, they could have gotten him as an actor, but they obviously wanted to go with Johnny Depp.
Mm-hmm. Were you sad that you got
mad about it?
You didn't know Johnny Depp was going to be in this movie, did you?
I did because you mentioned it once.
Spoiler Joel.
Yeah, way to go.
Hashtag spoiler
Joel.
Joel.
I didn't know he was going to be in this movie per se.
Our friend that came with us though to see the movie, she didn't know Johnny Depp was going to be in the movie. It was pretty hysterical when all of a sudden she was like,
Did he get any laughs in the audience?
There was pretty much.
No, it didn't get any laughs from us.
Because there's been people I've heard the rumors Oh, what is he
There
doing?
really
You know?
weren't that many people in
you know,
our audience.
It's and what it's a weird point in the movie. I mean, we're gonna jump all over here, but it's like here's famous actor Colin Farrell, and now he's turning into famous actor Johnny Depp. It's like what? Why? I don't know, because Colin Farrell did a pretty good job in the role, and he's already established that. But incidentally, they've also said that Colin Farrell is not going to be in any of the other films. So if people were thinking that he was, Grindelwald had taken polyjuice potion or something
wondering.
to do that, and actually we're going to see the real one the same way they did with Mad Eye Mooney.
Yeah.
They have said that is not the case. That he will not be back.
Well, it doesn't mean he might have taken polyjuice potion,
But he also might have
but
killed
he
him.
might have killed him. And that's, going back to Derek's question of how long was Grindelwald Colin Farrell's Carol Greaves? How long was it? We don't know, but but I'm sure Graves. I'm sure he's been around. Graves has been around for a long time, but there was a.
How did Newt know to transform him back there?
Remember Newt was questioning it. He goes, "We don't know anything about his backstory."
Yeah, I
We don't
did
know
like
anything
that.
about
Yes,
him.
I did like that.
So, I'm sure on a second watch, maybe it's written in there a little bit better. Let me keep going. My little list here. There was a graphic that was put out there a long time ago that takes every frame of every Harry Potter movie and it puts it. You see the color of it, the dominant color of it, and you can kind of see Harry Potter's movies 1 through 8, how it starts off very colorful and then it starts to get darker as
It's a barcode.
Yeah, it's like a barcode, and it starts to get darker as you see the frame. So like the 7th and 8th movie are the darkest sort of looking movies. And I always questioned
That even
that.
takes into account number 3 because he used a totally different film stock and everything.
It's talking about the
that
palette
film stands out.
Yeah, that's a great film.
It almost.
I would
jumps.
agree with you wholeheartedly that, and I would also. One of the things that makes that movie so good is Voldemort is not in it. We actually venture off into
It's the
serious.
only time,
So this film itself, the one thing I would say is I was hoping there was going to be more color in it. There is some color, but I think the director, David Yates, is the director of this one, I believe.
Yes, who had directed the last 4.
Yes, and he's going to be directing all 5 of these.
He's directing one at a time, and he says he's going to see how it goes. He's definitely doing the next one.
There is a serious lack of color in this film. I think
even when they went into the case,
the beasts are very colorful.
I thought when they went,
I
in
was
the
just
case,
hoping for a little bit more color, and I hope that if not they're going to start dark, they start to get more colorful. I like the idea that if you're going to tell the story of Harry Potter 1 through 8 in the movies, you do get darker as it goes along because the story gets more mature and darker. Mm-hmm. And I wish this would have started out the same way. That was just a minor critique.
And I think this, it's kind of showing a Depression era New York, so I think that in itself.
Yeah, I never had that thought.
Was it Depression era at this point?
Well, it's almost the Depression. If it's not that
it's
time,
Prohibition era right now.
Yeah, but it's going into that,
And
when we're also spending time with the second Salem group, which was just as drab as can be. So
yeah, but creepy people.
The house where people have terrible hairstyles.
That hairstyle reminds me of There Will Be Blood. That kind of.
It reminds me of Moe from the Three Stooges.
That too.
And there's our comic book connection, by the way. The Flash from the new Justice League movies plays
Ezra Miller. He plays Credence.
Credence.
Oh yeah, his hair really bugged me.
No, I like it though. That's very.
They all had that time period. Other than Newt, if you look at Jon Voight's hair is slim, Colin Farrell's hair is slim. That's that style, which also shows you like men's hairstyles don't jump around as crazy as women's.
Until the Beatles came and they got it longer. Well, at least in the past 100 years, yeah. So Jon Voight's character, what's up with that? What's going on there? Are we going to see him again, or was that just kind of a one-off thing for the story itself?
It was a one-off thing.
Jon Voight was the Shaw Media
newspaper publisher. Yes, the guy in charge whose son got killed.
But his other son seemed like to be
his other son makes that. I think there might be something going on there because that other son, his storyline. He was weird. He kind of jumps in with the second. Like, I have found these people. And we're like, they didn't show any of that connection. Not that I really wanted to spend any more time with those people than I had to. It was kind of like, every time they'd go there. I mean, I understand it was important for the storyline. And it was like 2 stories. This movie felt like 2 storylines going on. The main storyline of the whole book series of Grindelwald and what's going on there. And a happy-go-goofy guy who comes into town and can't buy a good lock for his case, and he's off on a weird, funny little adventure, and they kind of intersect at points until they accumulate at the end. I'm going to bring it up at the. No, I'm fine with that too. I don't like the point in the storyline where they're writing when she's writing the screenplay. And she's like, so then he shows up, and then in his case latch, it's like I thought of this great idea where he comes in with this case full of all this cool stuff, and they get out. How do they get out? Because the latch. Oh, so he didn't fix the latch, so that's how things happen. Yeah. It's like, no, that's weak. I don't like that. I don't like that. Like the whole point of the storyline moving forward is he just doesn't fix this latch on his thing. Because
That's fair.
it
That's
makes
fair.
him. That's another thing why I didn't like him. Is like he's to blame. Yes, he fixes everything at the end with magic
He's
tear
to blame.
rain
He's to blame for what?
for the death of that lion.
Is that okay?
You know that lion got shot. You know because
so I
he
did-
decided to come out there and let those things fly around. He knows, that all those cops there and like there comes a lion. What are they gonna do? Trank it? He killed that lion.
Yeah, I mean,
and that ostrich
if we wanna,
and maybe that hippo.
If
The
we
one-
want to get,
I laughed pretty hard though when it was like, what was the name of that giant hippo-like creature that the horn? It was like, oh, she's mating or whatever.
that
and
hippo didn't look
hippo
happy.
was like,
It was like,
uh-oh.
uh-oh, this ain't good.
well, that creature, I can't remember the name, but it has referenced into the Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows when we meet. Holy smokes! I forget the names. We see one of the horns. What's her name's dad?
Xenophilius,
Yes, Xenophilius. Thank you.
Lovegood.
Xenophilius Lovegood. He has one of the
That's
horns.
why you're here.
He has one of the horns in there. He thinks it's something else, and that's when Hermione goes, "No, that's whatever that creature is." And she goes, "Stay away from that. It's
crumple-
explosive." A crumple.
Well, he thinks it's a horn from a crumple horn sorcac. I don't remember what it actually is.
See, that's why we brought her on, folks. But that's what
She's good.
that
She's
horn
good.
is
Wow,
what
that's good.
that horn is what explodes and destroys the house.
Interesting.
So when we see it in the tree and explodes the tree, we've seen that before. So it's a tie it back to Harry Potter.
Did you find?
Let me. Well, see, you bring up the killing of the lion. I know you bring it up jokingly, but I also wrote down, and maybe it's something you don't think about. All these buildings coming down and all that. It's easy to rewind it and make the buildings come back together. But what about the people that were crushed inside of them? Do they come back to life? I don't know how
Well,
that
if
works.
he did, then he's responsible for a lot of deaths
I think
too.
you're supposed
Well,
to
he didn't.
ignore
He didn't.
that.
No, he didn't cause those deaths.
When his case gets opened up and blows through what's his name's Jacob's apartment, the same situation
Yes.
there.
But
That's
we never
his.
saw the building collapse, though. Like we saw buildings being taken out by the Obscurus. So I'm just saying, like, I was just bringing up the fact that's one of those things. Like, no, just don't think about that.
By the way, there's podcasts and pages devoted to all the Easter eggs involved with this movie, and we'll touch a few of them, but this is definitely more just general feel of this. We're not going to go into like, at 3 minutes, 2 seconds in, this point happens. Although I did love, and I did make note of this, when the movie starts out, even though they have a Fantastic Beasts score and
Theme,
a
yep.
theme, you start out with Hedwig's theme, the Harry Potter most known theme there. And I turned to my wife and I was like, wow, I didn't think I'd be hearing this again in a theater. It's very
great.
similar to how when we went and saw the Hobbit films, you hear the little bit of that Lord of the Rings music, or a James Bond film, or a Star Wars film. And that was pretty cool.
Yes,
and they,
very cool.
it was very smart of them. They give us just that little bit at the front. We're like, oh, here we go. And then, nope, here's our Fantastic Beasts music. So I thought that was really cool.
What happens to the little girl?
I don't know. We saw her under
Which
that.
sister? Did they both die?
We saw her under that desk, and then she was no more.
Yeah, there was the other sister who was the stern one, and then the one creepy little girl.
Did the
was
stern
an
one
who was an
die?
orphan.
This is a genuine
Adopted
question because we know the mother died.
Yeah.
Great. But we saw the other sister down on the main floor.
But we
and she
never
was
saw what happened.
And she's looking up at it, and then they make reference to when they're looking for the sister. He goes, "There's another sister." He says something like, "There's another sister," or "You had another sister," and they're talking about that. And that was a good. By the way, story-wise, that was pretty good for a bait and switch because I thought, well, he's clearly got the power, and then, but why do they keep showing the girl? And it related how she looked at the newspaper baron and that's son killed, and everything followed, including the belt. I'm like, oh, it's the girl, and then they call him a squib. I'm like, brilliant. But in my mind, I kept thinking, but wait a minute, they cast him. He's an up-and-coming actor.
You were thinking about the actor being cast. I did not think.
Well,
about that.
I'm like, so wow, maybe they're gonna do something with him because when he dismisses him, I didn't think he was gonna have the power right at that moment, but I thought he could come back and do something else, and so that when it was revealed that he was the power, I was like, whoa, that was pretty good. But yes, I don't know what happened to that sister or the other one. I'm sure the internet has that answer, but I haven't seen it
Or
yet.
it's a deleted scene. I know there's one deleted scene out there.
Well, I
where
couldn't tell if there was another dead body when they were looking over through the rubble of the
There is
second
a
place.
deleted scene where Newt actually takes his shirt off and you see all the scars he's gotten over the years fighting all these creatures, and apparently Eddie Redmayne
Really?
was really sad that they took it out because he worked out really hard to get in shape for that one scene. So we'll maybe see that in
There is
deleted
another
scene.
deleted scene that's more famous. I don't know if you know this. It goes to the end of the movie, but they did film a scene where Credence is boarding a boat, not necessarily the same boat, but in other words, at the end of this movie, if you're not paying attention, you think he's dead, but you do see that little bit of a cloud, the black obscurus, floating away, and Newt sees that, and that's supposed to represent that because he's in the next movie. They've said that he's cast. I don't know how many movies. Yes.
I assumed he was dead.
No.
Same as Derek assumed he was dead as well.
No,
so.
he's alive, and they filmed a scene that had him getting on a boat going somewhere, which he's going to be one of the main focuses in the next movie. They never explained how Grindelwald was going to utilize him. That never got explained. Did you guys see that point where he's like...
He wants to cause chaos is the one thing I know he wants to do. He wants to cause chaos in the world and let the world know that wizards exist. And I guess one of the ways he does that is through the Obscurus.
He doesn't want to have to hide anymore.
Yes.
No, I get that.
Yes. Okay, a couple more things that
He's got some valid points politically. I'm serious.
He wants to make the Wizarding World great again. I understand.
Well, no, that's funny. But I'm saying, like, the books, the whole thing with him and Dumbledore, they both kind of want to do certain things, but it's like he doesn't. I mean, yes, he doesn't want to hide anymore, but he also does it maybe in the harsh way. But it's like he's not wrong. Like, he shouldn't have to hide. That's a valid point. I mean, his way of going about it and his end game might not be good, but there's validity in what he wants to do versus Voldemort just wants to be a monster. Grindelwald, maybe he's just using that as a platform, but he's like,
he wants the wizards,
because like there's been
persecution for. I mean, if you go back into the history of like,
I know with the Salem trials and everything.
There's been persecution of the Wizarding World, and they're very cautious about going out revealing themselves because there could be an issue with it. I think it's fascinating.
But they brought it to law. Who is the law protecting? Because they're powerful enough now that they can go. So you respect the power, and if the wizards have the power, then you go, okay, you got to respect them.
Well, at this point, since it takes place in our history, you can't have them come to power because there is talk like why didn't they get involved in the world wars and all that, and they've talked about that with each of the different. You have the Wizarding Council, you have the MACUSA. They've all talked about that why they don't get involved. So okay, moving on. I thought it was really interesting the little throwaway in the middle of the movie, then it comes back to play big time. The venom being used to obliviate the entire city. Now, it is kind of like the water, you see people drinking, showering. It takes a while.
Deus ex machina to a certain degree, but yes.
But I like that they showed it earlier. He's like, I don't know what I can do with this, but properly diluted, he thinks he has effects. And it comes back to play later, and I thought that was really, it was good writing, good foreshadowing.
He should have said as he was going to do that, but before I do this, Madam President, you have to promise that Jacob doesn't have to be obliviated. He has the power right there. He doesn't do it.
That really. How did you feel about Jacob being obliviated when he stepped out into the?
I was so sad because, like you said before, they made us love him, and I like.
Oh, he was a perfect. I mean,
but then
how
she
could
came
you not
back
love
to
him?
the bakery later. So
he clearly had influences in his baking and everything.
And that was very smart of them to give us a happy ending with him because. They could have easily just had him go out, walk out, and that's the last you see of him.
They were never going to do that.
They could.
No, they were never going to do that.
I mean, that's one of those.
I wasn't worried. I didn't know how they were going to give him a happy ending, but I knew it was coming because I'd be shocked if they hadn't. That'd be monstrous to not have that character who is our character that we're kind of on the journey with, although we know more. We know more than him.
Yes.
But we're not, at that level. So that was, I like that.
I had a couple things. Did this movie establish that Grindelwald can do wandless magic? Because he got rid of...
We didn't see too much. I had an eye out for this because there's a moment in one of the Harry Potter movies.
The first one.
You see a wizard stirring a cup with using just his finger, and it's like, oh my god, he's doing wandless magic, and very few people can in the Wizarding world.
Voldemort can't even do wandless magic.
And so the guy's stirring.
Okay, this is the nerd stuff. You guys are deep.
So
I'm good with the superpowers in the comics, but you guys are deep. I mean, keep going.
Graves, aka Grindelwald, he gets rid of Credence, the scratches on his hands with just his hand. He
Oh, I didn't even notice that. I was trying to keep an eye out for.
No, he takes his hand and he puts his hand over the belt.
And it goes away.
And it goes away.
And see, now, from my position, I would tack that on as a filmmaker, saying this is more visually entertaining, and you're saying that their detail is so they're so detail oriented that they would have caught that and not let that happen because that's very important. Versus, I would not have thought about that as someone who is not as deep into it as you two, so I wouldn't know to look for that.
Sure. Again, I was looking out at all the other wizards in the world trying to see that, but I did not put 2 to 2 together that he used wandless magic. So,
I bet you if you look back at the other Harry Potter movies, they put little flourishes in the background that's probably happening. That somebody could write something saying that Graves had already taken one of the potions from Magical Plant and put it on his hand so that when he goes like that, he's actually...
Yeah, there's ways to probably
they could do that. Or they could just said, oh, it looks cooler this way. You know, because the wand, you guys know more, but isn't with the wands and their magic, is it just waving the wand, or do they have to be saying something, or could they say it in their
They
head?
can say it in their head.
Okay, so that's
They're-
It depends on
they-
how powerful the wizard is, because they have a
they
whole conversation
learn-
with Dumbledore.
yeah. You guys
about
are
that.
so much. I mean, these books are in the distance of my
They
past.
learn in one
and
of their
you're more
years to do
up on
silent
this.
incantations.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
And then I had another question. Before they're about to go into the speakeasy, which I want to go to. I want to go to a magic.
Well, you know they're
speakeasy.
building that.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my god.
the next butterbeer is going to be Giggle
Giggle
Juice.
Did you like the humor in this
I
movie?
love the humor in this
I thought
movie.
the humor was pretty good.
Yeah, the Giggle Juice is speakeasy in New York. You take the whole Universal Studios. You take that New York section. You start adding in.
You like Ron Perlman as the?
Well, I have that written down here. I liked him. Don't know how much I can look at bent back fingers though.
Ew,
that really,
yeah,
that
was-
really, his fingers
You
were
didn't notice
actually
his fingers
bent
were backwards?
backwards. Like they're up
notice
to
it.
like the first knuckle is fine, then the rest of it bends backwards, and I was like, I can't keep looking at this. It's
Yeah.
messing with my head. Yeah. It was great seeing Ron Perlman.
But I had a question because right before they go in, the ladies they change into their dresses with their wands. Was that ever a thing that was able to be done? Like I thought, like I didn't know people could change their clothes with
I would
their
guess
wands.
there's got to be thousands of spells that we haven't seen.
Transfiguration of some
We
sort.
can't have
guess.
known all of them. They've got to. You know, we've only had 7 years of movies with
But,
the
like,
kids
even-
learning basic stuff.
I know. Well, yeah, I guess. But
I mean,
even
the-
like with like Harry Potter and stuff, when they went to the forest in Deathly Hallows, Hermione had to pack them clothes. Like they couldn't just change their clothes
Because
with
they
their
were
wands.
kids still.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
that's true.
yeah. That's a good question. I mean, it's a good point to
Yeah.
bring up. I'd be
I agree.
curious, and that's one of those things we can, as Jerry likes to say, twit to J.K. Rowling's and ask her about that.
Jerry's never said that.
Twit.
I thought this was an interesting fact, which should come into play later. Newt had an older brother who was a hero in the war.
Yes. Well, his
whatever
whole
that meant.
backstory is interesting.
With the Lestrange.
Yes. Well, his girl Lita Lestrange, who was played by Zoe Kravitz,
Who will
consequently
be in-
means she's coming back in
Yep.
this. Zoe Kravitz, famous daughter of Lucille Ball, and
There it is.
she was actually in Mad Max Fury Road and a bunch of other things, but she's in the picture, which means she'll be showing up in the next few movies. People were wondering. Obviously, that's a relationship to Bellatrix Lestrange,
Bellatrix,
but through marriage because she's a black. I do remember that Sirius Black's family line. So, but yes, that was, and I'm okay with that. I mean, that had nothing to do with the issues I had with his acting or his character. Revealing his backstory over the course of 5 movies, I'm fine with that, you know. And maybe that at the end of it, it'll explain like that's why he mumbles when he talks and talks quietly.
I heard people saying they had problem understanding him. I never once had a problem understanding him.
There was twice where I go, what did he say? But
Never had
but
any
they were not important sequences. But I could see people picking up on that. I also try to say people picking.
because they're old and they need aids. to
Stop
help
looking
hearing.
at me when you say that.
Okay, I want to bring up this one this theory that's out there right now because I thought it was fascinating, and the more I thought about it, it is probably what's going to happen with the movie. So if you don't want to be spoiled, skip ahead. But I want to tell you this. So this is from.
How can I move ahead?
This is from the books, or this is from the previous books about Dumbledore's sister and what happened.
Oh,
with
I
her.
know
Have you
about
read about this? You have. I know you probably haven't read about this yet, Kelsey.
I haven't.
Well, they talk about this in the movie too.
Yes, I'm just going to read this little bit of dialogue here that Dumbledore's brother
Aberthoth, or what is that?
Aberforth talks about
Aberfifth? I don't know.
talks about his sister Ariana. When my sister was 6 years old, she was attacked by 3 Muggle boys.
Do the voice.
No.
They'd seen her. No, I can't. I don't know why I went to Sean Connery. Weird. They'd seen her doing magic. They'd seen her doing magic, spying through the back garden hedge. She was a kid. She couldn't control it. No witch or wizard can at that age. What they saw scared them, I expect. They forced their way through the hedge, and when she couldn't show them the trick, they got a bit carried away trying to stop the little freak doing it. It destroyed her, what they did. She was never right again. She wouldn't use magic, but she couldn't get rid of it. It turned inward and drove her mad. It exploded out of her when she couldn't control it, and at times she was strange and dangerous.
She became the first Obscurus.
Well, no, but the first Obscurus.
That we are. I'm saying that
Yes.
we have heard of.
And so
we didn't know it at the time we were hearing.
Correct. This story, I thought that. I don't know if you knew that. Did you know that?
That was in the book.
Yeah, I know, but have you put?
Oh,
no.
I wish you could have seen the look.
Have
The
you
look
put?
was fantastic.
Have you put it together that she was an Obscurus?
No,
If you
didn't
put it
know
together,
that
it
one.
was
I
in
did
the
not.
book.
But I thought that you were saying that passage was new. I was like, what do you mean I've never read that passage?
And Grindelwald was around when this happened.
Kelsey,
It was
what page
because
was that on in the book?
She apparently she died when Grindelwald they had
Not
their,
yet in this though.
Yes,
it hasn't
not in
happened. That's
this.
coming up in movie 3 probably is my guess.
So I found this fascinating. J.K. Rowling has thought about this stuff for a long time now. So this book, this movie is based off of one of the 3 little books that she wrote called Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which is kind of an encyclopedia of all the creatures that are all the fantastic beasts that are out there. And so you can actually find a lot of the beasts in that book, such as the Niffler, which I think maybe stole the movie. I love the Niffler. when it's posing there, just holding the.
Or when he's trying to, like, he slowly tries to shove that, like, box into his pouch when he gets caught. That made me laugh. But I wanted to go back and look at the book and see if, how many of those animals or beasts, whatever, were in that book.
Apparently, most of them were. There's, like, the movie focuses on 6, 8 in particular, and I thought the beasts inside and outside of the cabinet were fine. There were some
except
whatever happened to that one that was spinning around like a top. We never find out. That must be a deleted scene.
You have Baby Groot in there, so that was nice.
I loved him.
I wanted to finish up with this. J.K. Rowling's been thinking about this in 2001. When she wrote the book, the book is published under a fake publisher name called Obscurus Books.
Nice. I did not know that.
That is how long she's known the story of Ariana and what happened with Grindelwald. So I think that's really clever of her. She knows what she's doing.
The reason I knew a little bit more about that was Joel, when he started getting to Harry Potter, he was following all these different little fan films too. And there was a great fan film called Snape and the Marauders. Wonderful fan film about Snape in school having to go up against James and Sirius Black and all that stuff. Is very professionally done. One of the most professional fan films I've ever seen. Snape and the Marauders. Highly recommend watching it. After watching that, the same guys who did that had made another one earlier that's not quite as good, but it is the battle of Grindelwald and the sister and Aberforth and Dumbledore. It's their battle. It's what happens to her. And I was like, oh, okay, that's that storyline, which ties into what's eventually going to happen. I guess one of the reasons we're going to find out with Dumbledore and Grindelwald and their whole situation, we can get into the next movie, what their connection is and everything, was when the sister does eventually die in whatever year that happens, when it happens through some sort of battle, we don't know, or Dumbledore doesn't know, or doesn't want to know who killed his sister, because I guess there's a chance that he could have been the one who threw the curse at her. And dealing with Grindelwald, he kind of doesn't want to know, because he doesn't want to find out that he may have actually done it. And that's something that's going to come into play in the next movie or 2 or 3 or 4.
Great.
Talking about connections, you mentioned his older brother Theus or whatever, how it's pronounced, Theosis or whatever.
Newt's older brother?
Yes.
I don't think they actually say his name in the movie.
Well, it's called in here, from what I'm reading, is Newt is momentarily mistaken by Graves for his brother, the war hero, Theus Scamander, who is a powerful British Auror. It turns out that Theus and Graves have been in correspondence before the events of Fantastic Beasts. So there's a connection there.
I'm sure we're going to get more of that.
Yeah. I also did see I saw the Deathly Hallows insignia that he was carrying on there, which they didn't really. It was there, but it wasn't like drawn to it. It's like it's in the shot.
Well,
but there's no close.
At first, when he gives him the Deathly Hallows sign, touch this and I'll come. I was like, oh, he's a Grindelwald follower. I did not put together that he was Grindelwald. I did not put that together at all. I thought that was. Did you?
I don't want to talk about it.
Did you spoil yourself on it?
I don't want to talk about it.
You spoiled yourself on it, didn't you?
It.
You did. You saw like the second day it was out. How did you spoil yourself?
I was reading.
You read about it?
I was reading a different article that had nothing to do with that, and the freaking line was talking about. It was like Johnny Depp's in the movie. I knew he was in the movie. That got spoiled like 2 weeks ago that he was in the film. I'm like, fine, he shows up at the end in some respects, and I knew that was coming into it. It didn't bother me, and I knew that was the back of his head that we had seen at the very beginning of the movie, the blonde head and everything. I'm like, oh, that's Johnny Depp. He'll show up at the end. And then in the article, it didn't say it quite straightforward, but it was along the lines of Colin Farrell, who, and it's something. I wasn't even looking at it. I was just kind of skimming through something. Is in disguise Grindelwald, and I'm like, what? And in my mind, put together Colin Farrell's got that shaved head in the back. Oh no! I just spoiled. I was so pissed at myself, and I didn't even read the whole sentence.
This happens to him all the time. You've heard
Shut
it,
up.
folks. You know it
Shut
happens
up.
all the time.
It sucks. It sucks so bad because as soon as that happened, I'm like, I mean, I went out of my way to stay away from articles. This was something else that was, I don't even know what it was talking about, but it was like blah blah blah. It might have been Johnny Depp doing this, and then some. I wish I could cuss here. Just Jerry, he puts this in there, and maybe he didn't put it together, but my mind. My analytical mind, which has spoiled Westworld, I know all of the questions of Westworld answered. I know it. I just like, oh, he's clearly in him. But then I kept thinking, maybe I read that wrong. Don't go back and read it. Don't look at that. Maybe nope, sure enough.
I've stopped watching trailers for the most part. Like Rogue One, I've stopped watching everything about Rogue One. I'm gonna go in with as clean of a slate as I can do. Yeah, that sucks, man. That really sucks.
I you know what? I wasn't 100% positive. But I kind of like, I think he is, or maybe, or, you know what? I kept telling him maybe he changes into him halfway through the movie or something like that. But I kind of spoiled it. Dang it.
It's good seeing giants in the film. I thought the Makuza, the headquarters, but I also thought the council, where they had there were some of the English people there and everything like that. I like that. I want to know more about who those people were. I think that'd be fascinating. And I really love this scene when the president was like, go, and all the inspectors, whatever they call them, they all start disappearing.
Stupid. Oh, I see what you're saying, yes.
I love that scene. I thought that scene was
But her character, the character of Tina, they should have established somewhere where she was somebody of high rank at one point. And then they didn't really establish, like, she kept walking in a situation, I'm like, why is she doing here? She keeps looking foolish.
Yeah, she was the weakest of all the characters. I would agree with that 100%.
She kind of bugged me. There were certain things about her that bugged me that, like, dumb.
But you really wanted them to kiss at the end.
I did. Well, and they were building her up. You gotta love.
She didn't even do anything. She crawls in she gets in at the end underneath the magical barrier, and then she goes down there.
She talks to him, and because she saved his.
No, I get it, but it was like, I don't know. It seemed like something was missing there. Also, having your villain be a cloud.
We've talked about that.
Have they not learned? Like, we can't relate to a giant mystical cloud. It doesn't work. You have to have something we can see.
A Dormammu face.
Yeah, something.
I agree. No, I thought about that the whole time too. I was like waiting for some sort of definition to start taking place where it is a monster. Every now and then you would see some sort of like monster. You'd see legs or something like that, but it never fully formed. I agree. But that doesn't take away from it. I thought that was the best villain cloud that I've seen.
So, can you think of anything else that we wanted to talk about?
We could keep talking about this because I think the world that this exists in, the Harry Potter world, I think this expanded the universe, and I really am interested in learning more about it personally. I like going on the Pottermore site. You can actually follow the history of all the presidents and how they got to where they got to on the Pottermore site. You can learn about Ilvermorny, the school that they mentioned briefly
you could take a test.
in the movie. You could take a test to find out the house you're in.
So he was bringing the Thunderbird to America to take it to Arizona to mate there because there's another one there somewhere?
I didn't get the mating thing. I got it taking it there because that's where it's from.
That's where it's from.
Okay.
It was trafficked out of the United States. And he's taking it back there because it likes the big open areas and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Frank.
Oh, Frank.
That case was pretty cool going down there. That was really slick.
Yes.
I was also claustrophobic when Jacob was trying to get inside the case.
And he got stuck.
I'm like, oh, that,
and he's jumping up and down.
That was a cool effect.
Yeah.
So my opinion still states that I would have to give the movie generously. I will give it a B-. That's my rating. It may go up of all the things I think about. I guess because the main character and the secondary main character just didn't do for me as good as the B characters. I wanted more from them. So that's my rating and that's my reason. And boy, they get some harsh death sentences there. You know, they're going to drop her in that stuff, even though they're giving her these nice memories when they're going to kill her because,
to make it painless.
But it looks like it's burning. It's like as soon as you go in there, it's like, how painless is that going to be? Because as soon as it touches you, it's not like you just go and drown. It's like, it looks terrible.
That was a pretty brutal scene, but I like that world. It exists at that time for them to do that.
Well, there they send you into burning liquid. In England, they
just put you in Azkaban.
They give you to the Dementors, so...
Yeah,
that's true.
Dementors, I think, is actually worse. Compared to the way they describe...
You can get out if you're, good time off for good behavior.
Yeah, but not if you get a Dementor's kiss. Then your soul is just gone.
How would you rate this movie, Kelsey, in relation to the other Harry Potter films?
What I liked about the other Harry Potter films, though, is that, um, is that I had books to compare it off of. And not that that's a bad thing that this didn't have a book. I don't know. I'd say I'd give it an A because I liked it. There were some things in there that I questioned, but
Was it better than the other Harry Potter ones, or right in the middle, or just as good?
it wasn't better. No, but because
It's better than some,
like if Harry Potter's on, like I have to watch it.
even with all the commercials.
Yeah,
Actually, on Freeform, they have deleted scenes spliced into the actual movies.
yeah.
So there's stuff that you've never seen before. All of a sudden you're like watching it in the movie, like, hey, where'd this come from?
I've never seen that before.
Well,
Yeah.
they're on the DVDs.
Yeah,
the
but-
deleted
Yeah, but they're
scenes.
not spliced
Yeah.
into it.
Mhm.
So I think that's pretty cool. The Harry Potter movies, and I've seen them all now, and I like they don't compare to the books.
No.
I think the movies are good. I think this movie holds up, or is even better. Some of those, the Half-Blood Prince, Order of the Phoenix. Those movies are all very. There's a lot to forget in those movies.
They go so fast through all of the details, where it's like, I feel like they could have done 2 movies for a couple of the Harry Potter books, because there's a lot of things that they just kind of were like, oh yeah,
And I think they wasted the 2-movie thing on the one that didn't need it.
oh I was. Oh,
Yeah.
I agree,
Parts
and so that's why I
7, part
think
one,
if you're comparing the movies.
Well, that's all
I-
we can compare.
But I mean, if you're comparing this story to the Harry Potter story because of the
Oh
books
God,
makes
that's
it so,
the genius of that whole storyline is
Mhm.
you know there's a reason it's so popular. She did an incredible job of tying things together.
creating a world,
Yes,
telling
yeah,
narratives
but
that have.
just forget the world. The
hero's
world
journey,
itself
yeah.
is incredible too, but she's got a very clever story that works, that answers. It doesn't fall apart in the end. It holds up all the way to the end. So
And,
And
there's
so-
so
bravo.
many connections from.
That's
like,
why I have faith in her for 5 of these movies.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, as far as a movie is concerned, I think this one holds up. I mean, I don't think it's as good as the third Harry Potter movie, but I put this one up there this one might be 2 or 3 out of my favorite Harry Potter movies right now. I love this movie. I thought this movie had everything: the action, the use of the creatures when he's fighting people, when he's like using that yo-yo creature around, and it's awesome. I could watch this again, and I can get something different out of it each time. I thought it was beautiful the way they're putting back the city and all that. It was just a beautiful little scene there when they're flying through it. Yeah, I'm all in with this movie.
Very good. Excellent. So, if you like that movie, give us any feedback of what you thought of the film, or if you didn't like the film. Also, be curious if you like us venturing out of our comfort zone of the
Your comfort zone?
superhero
What are you talking
genre.
about?
Well, within talking words, I mean, we've done that with Star Wars.
This is right in my comfort zone.
Yes, it is. But we've done this with Star Wars, but normally we tend to stay into the genre of superheroes to a certain degree, or comics. But if this is something that you like, or if there's other suggestions, let us know at Gmail, betterbrotherspodcast@gmail.com, or on our Facebook page, which is the easiest way to get in touch with us if you say yay or nay to going this route, because we see a lot of movies, but we
Oh,
only
yeah.
talk about a few of them. But we can talk about other ones. Let us know.
We can talk about War Dogs and then Kubo and the Two Strings and no. We do watch a lot
But
of
we
movies.
will be talking about Rogue One. That's coming
Yes.
up later this year.
And as always, we'll be doing the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast coming up here, like Jerry
Kelsey, you
mentioned.
going to be a regular for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast?
Probably not.
How about the This Is Us podcast that we're going to do?
If you do a This Is Us podcast, I'm in.
How did I figure that, Naz?
It's so good.
Joel, do you watch This Is Us?
I do not.
Joel, he doesn't get it. He doesn't get
No,
it.
we're going to do a Black Mirror podcast instead. It's going to be great.
Yep.
Happy Days on that show. And we're also doing Happy Days.
Hey, there it is.
All right. Sit down at Potsy. I'm Jerry.
I'm Joel. We'll talk to you next time. Oh, no, wait. Holy smokes.
And I'm Kelsey. Goodbye.
Thank you for joining us, Kelsey.
Thank you, Kelsey.